Hello, my name is NicholassRivas. I talk about politics and stuff. And today we're actually going to be talking about something less political. Um, really, nothing in the news caught my attention. So, my main mantra is like, if it doesn't catch my attention, I don't want to force myself to talk about something I don't want to. So, I have this like backlog of ideas that I just kind of just want to talk about, philosophize about, get philosophical with. The fear of immortality and the fear of mortality, uh, more so, I should say. The idea of losing people, losing things, everything's mortal. No matter what it is, or from our coffee mugs to our loved ones, they're going to break. They're going to cease to exist. We are all just atoms made up of people, of the world we love. It's all just it's a finite time on this world. Um, of course, our bodies and our corpses, or the tangible things in this world will to exist, but to us, our idea of it, right? Like, you can see a dead body, and obviously that, to me, that's not a person anymore. And so I think that's why I brought in that to things can also cease to exist. I think there will be a point where a lot of the things I love in my life will cease to exist. But I have no fear of it, per se. I do have the fear, I mean, like every human does, of losing things. It's just human. That's why we fight for survival. It's evolutionary. That's where faith and religious ideas come to existence, because you have to, right? How do you look at this world and not feel fear and terror? Thankfully, my mindset, I feel that I've become a little bit more and more stronger with the idea of mortality. I think the idea that you're going to lose things is obviously terrible, and there's no way to cut it. It's awful. But the silver lining, if any, is that, well, you take it and cherish it, since you know that there's not much time for it. From our pets to our loved ones to even the job and the health you have, right? I mean, I know people who were runners, and they were runners their whole life, and then bam, something happened. That life is gone. That runner's life you had. Maybe not all the time, because I think there's also some sort of beauty with prosperity, and like, if you break your leg, you will heal and you'll go back to your running days. But that idea is possible. That idea that you can end up in an accident and lose what you believe is your life is very much possible. So I think the fear of mortality is fair and understandable, but to be consumed by it is always my fear. It's the fear of fear. I always felt that I was too focused on it sometimes. And then I shifted to like, well, now I'm thinking about the perspective of my loved ones. Like, the fear of mortality for myself, I feel like I've kind of come over that hump. I think eventually everybody does. I hope you do, because, I mean, the train's going to stop somewhere, so you better be prepared to hop off. So the fear of mortality never really hit me. Like, I think I could look at it myself and say, I'm okay with any sort of passing of me. But when it comes to others, my loved ones, that's always scary. And I think many of people fall in the same boat. Like, we've kind of accepted that, look, man, I ain't going to be here. And that pain is a lot easier to settle with, because it's like, well, when I'm gone, I'm gone. But when you have your loved ones leave, then you're still here. And you have to deal with that. And we've experienced that when we lost family members and loved ones in our life. It never is easy. And it doesn't get easier. I thought it got easier. You feel like you lose one person, you're like, I felt I was the worst pain in my life. I can lose another, and I feel like I can come over top. That ain't the truth. From losing our most recent cat to losing my grandmother a year ago, it's still a pain that doesn't go away. It doesn't even get better. You think like, it gets better. It doesn't. And my fear of that was like, like the pain that person felt in my life. I don't want that to happen to anybody. The idea that they're staring death in the face, that's awful. A part of me wanted to take that pain and bring it to myself. And I think many people you don't want to see your loved ones suffer. You don't want to see someone with such innocence and young, like my nana, my grandmother, her pain and suffering was actually more so being on this earth rather than the death itself. So it was kind of peaceful to see her go because she could finally let go and regroup with her husband, with her lost siblings, her cousins, her mother. Like, that's a beautiful thought. Even if there is no existence after this, the idea that that suffering, that pain that we hold when we lose so many people, the woman, was in her 80s, got to deal with so much pain. That suffering is gone. That's a beautiful sight. But then the thought of like a child, you lose a young kid. It's a horrible thought that they were so young and innocent and they didn't get to experience life itself at any point. So that's just terrifying. Like that poor kid. I think that's why I think I was so hurt with some of our animals passing, because the thought of like, man, they're just so innocent. They did nothing wrong. But I think it's getting over that hump that, you could be the purest of the pure and life is going to take you. I mean, you have a finite amount of days in this world. Your pets, your loved ones, whatever, they have a finite amount of days. So just, take it as you will. I mean, like I said, there's no silver lining. It's a shitty feeling. It's a terrible thought of like the most great things in this world will soon be gone. And I think the fear of myself dying was always whatever, because I'm not gonna feel it. I'm not gonna exist. And that's why that pain of living every day knowing your loved ones will be gone is just terrifying. There's no other way to cut it. It's just a shitty feeling. And so you have to take something somewhat positive from this crazy shit. And you say to yourself, well, you cherish what you cherish. You take hold what you take hold. I think that's what a mantra of a lot of my music, a lot of my videos, a lot of my anything is that, I don't have much of this world. Neither does my loved ones. They will not live forever. So you take them with pride and joy now. Because I think the worst feeling is when you're at someone's funeral and you're like, that person wasn't there for them. That person wasn't as proactive with their pain and their happiness, whatever it is. They weren't there, as much as their tears are trying to say that they were not. And that's the feeling that I'm trying to avoid. When my grandfather passed away, he said, I love you. And I said, I love you back. I didn't sit there and go, damn, I wish I said goodbye to Tata. No, I was able to give my goodbyes. And I'm very blessed to have that. A lot of people don't have the moment to even do it, but also the ability to put away their pride, their ego, their anger. I'm not saying forgive everybody, but I think we get angry at too many people, more so than we should. I mean, if there's like a rapist and you're like, fuck that dude, fuck him. But if you have like a beef with an aunt, I just don't think it's worth the pain and anger that comes with it. And even if you're justified, a part of me wants to battle and say, how much of it is this worth? And I think that's the beauty of the fear of mortality, is sometimes it ain't worth it. I mean, you have a few amount of days and so do they. So why make it harder for both of you? And if they want to continue to be a piece of shit or a thorn in your side, there's only so much you can do. But the stuff that you can do is that I'm not going to waste my anger on them. I don't want to go to their funeral, which I plan to do if I have a beef with someone in my life. But they're still close to me. I plan to still go, and I want to go there with sincerity and say like, hey, the ball was in their court. I came here to show my respects because I respected them. Now, if someone doesn't have your respect, who gives a shit what happens at their funeral? But I think the idea, though, if you do care about someone, even in the slightest, is it really worth all the pain and anger, all the envy, all the animosity? I don't know. It varies case by case. There are people in my life that I'm very much counting down the days to their death. And I think it's the truth. There are people in my life that I don't want them to, and I hope they live forever, and I lie to myself and say that they're immortal. But that's just not the truth. That's just not the adult thing to do. So what you do is you take that time and you cherish it. That's the only answer. That's the only thing you can control. You can't control the mortality of the world. You just can't. So what you do is you control what you can control. And that's the time you have with people, the enjoyment you have with people, the boundaries you set with people, the advances you make with people, or just things in life. I don't want to sit on my deathbed saying, I wish I painted the Sistine Chapel. I wish I ran that marathon. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to have those regrets. So it's definitely not a hard science. Everyone varies and, everyone's aspirations and relationships differ. But for me personally, there are not many relationships in my life right now that I care enough to be angry at somebody, right? I think it may be one or two people where I truly hope the worst for them. And even then I'm like, well, I don't hope the worst for them. I hope they get help. I'm angry at them for the pain they brought to our loved ones, but they deserve jail time, not the sweet release of death. So I think it's a matter of how you handle it, but I very much feel the people that I have the animosity or some envy or some anger with, it's just not worth it. It's not worth it. I've had old coworkers who hated me. And I saw them and said, no, I don't really care to make it. I'm going to remain neutral. I'm going to keep going, even though you made my life every day hell. You made me cry every day at work. You made me, want to quit every day of my job. I look at them with peace and love. That's all you can do. It's not worth it. I mean, they obviously have a hatred for me, and I obviously have a hatred for them. Why perpetuate it? If you see them, you wave, and then you move on. I don't want to have the conversation, so I set my boundary. But do I wish the worst on them? No. I think in the moment when you're getting yelled at by a person, or you're like, red-eyed, screaming, vein popping out, maybe you think of some awful things. But I think in the moment right now with my clear, sane mind, it ain't worth it. They shouldn't run through my mind as much as they should, and I hope them peace. You never want to hope for someone's darkness, right? You hope they find the light in their journey, right? So the idea, and hopefully my mantra that I can continue is that half of this shit ain't worth it. So yeah, just cherish your moments. There's a song called If We're Vampires. If We Were Vampires, it's a really beautiful song, but it's that, if we did live forever, we would take a lot of this for granted. And I am very much thankful that, I'm going to work hard till the end of my shift. That's the mindset. Like, hey, I have a set amount of time. Better put it all while I'm here. And I don't want to regret it while I'm leaving. So it is what it is. Thank you all very much. Peace.